Good morning, fervent viewers of My Media Prime Television, and welcome to yet another edition of The Brief, your program which brings you what it's making headlines on our newspapers. This morning, majority of our newspapers are focused on the heated session of Parliament yesterday that was dedicated to the reconstruction of the Northwest and Southwest regions, with over 57 MPs rising against the coordinator of that commission and saying that the plan is bound to fail. We have Gwladys Bomotonguina, who is here with what is making headlines on our French papers. Good morning, Gwladys.
Bonjour, Ngong, et bonjour à vous qui nous regardez. Merci de nous retrouver effectivement pour cette autre édition de Débrief, votre émission de revue de presse sur Ma Media Prime et Télévision. Alors, effectivement, les presses francophones ce matin sont focalisé sur l'Assemblée nationale, et nous allons débuter ce matin avec le journal L'économie quotidien qui parle des régions du nord-ouest et du sud-ouest Cameroun. Le gouvernement qui peine à mobiliser les fonds pour la reconstruction. Paul Le Tasson, coordonnateur national du plan présidentiel de reconstruction et développement de ces deux régions, a fait le bilan de cette initiative au cours d'une séance plénière hier à l'Assemblée nationale. Les détails sont donc en page 3 de ce journal. En page 6, le journal parle de la 7e édition du Forum des marchés organisé par la FANAF à Yaoundé. Nous continuons donc ce matin avec le journal Mutation qui parle toujours des régions du nord-ouest et du sud-ouest et même de l'extrême nord Cameroun. En effet, le coordonnateur du plan présidentiel de reconstruction de ces régions en difficulté était face aux députés, sans oublier que les bailleurs de fonds ne sont plus emballés par l'initiative. Les détails sont donc en page 8 et 9 de ce journal. Nous poursuivons donc ce matin avec le journal Émergence qui parle de l'université de Yaoundé 1. Que se passe-t-il là-bas? C'est la question que se pose le confrère ce matin. Le recteur en porte et en faux avec certains responsables. Les accusations ne font que se lever vers l'université qui, de son côté aussi, présente sa défense. Les détails sont donc en page 5 de ce journal. Nous terminons ce matin avec l'œil du Sahel qui parle de plus de 2000 déplacés internes menacés par la famine au Cameroun. Les détails sont en page 9 de ce journal. En page 10, le journal L'œil du Sahel parle de 70 000 enfants qui ont été non scolarisés en 2020 au Cameroun. En page 8, le journal parle de la vie des enfants mendiants à Garoua. C'était tout pour votre revue de presse en langue française. Ce matin sur ce plateau, place à la découverte de ces journaux en langue anglaise avec toi, Joy God.
Thank you very much, Gwladys Bomotonguina. We begin the review in the English language with the Guardian Post newspaper. The paper this morning focuses on the reconstruction plan of the Northwest and Southwest region. And the paper titles, Members of Parliament fault government for putting the cart before the horse. The paper goes further to say 57 members of Parliament grill a reconstruction plan coordinator, Paul Tassong, for over 8 hours during the National Assembly on grounds that the plan is doomed. This was during yesterday's stormy session of the National Assembly, chaired by Senior Vice Speaker Honorable Hilarion Etong. More details on page 3 of the Guardian Post newspaper. Still on the Anglophone crisis, the paper goes further to say that pro-federalists form a coalition to push for federation as a solution. The paper says some Cameroonian activists at home and in the diaspora have created a platform to champion the return of federalism as lasting solution to the ongoing Anglophone crisis. The platform, named a Coalition of Cameroon Federalist Groups and Activists, unveiled during a virtual press conference held on Saturday, November 23. Details on page 9 of the Guardian Post newspaper. We continue with Municipal Update newspaper, and the newspaper focuses on the National Assembly as well, and it captions Parliament throws weight behind a reconstruction plan. This is still referring to the heated session yesterday at the National Assembly between Paul Tasson and other members of Parliament. You can have more details on this on page 3 of Municipal Update newspaper. We move on to Eco Sante newspaper. This edition focuses on the fight against postnatal deaths in Cameroon. As it captions, Afriland First Bank gives 50 made in Cameroon incubators in hospitals throughout the country. This is their own way to contribute to the fight against the death of babies in maternities. You can have more details of this story on page 7 of Eco Sante newspaper. We stay with Eco Sante, where the paper equally warns that Africa is expected to experience the highest increase in cases of diabetes globally in the months ahead. Details on page 5 of this edition of Eco Sante newspaper. Still on health, let's move to L'Essentiel newspaper, and this edition focuses on COVID Gate. Yes, the recent release of the audit report by the Directorate General of the COVID-19 budget. The paper goes further to say the document reveals how public authorities took advantage of the health emergency to embezzle public funds. Details on page 3 of L'Essentiel newspaper. We are back in the studio, and we have with us as guest Prince Epie Ejede of the Popular Action Party. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, madam.
And welcome to this edition of The Brief. Thank
you very much for inviting me. Good morning to your colleague. Good morning to the viewers of The Brief by Media Prime, and a special good morning to the President of the Popular Action Party, Ngong. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's always a pleasure to have you. Well, Mr. Prince Epie, let's begin with this rehabilitation plan for the Northwest and Southwest regions that was making headlines, or that's making headlines in the newspapers, the Guardian Post, and other newspapers. This was following the heated session of Parliament yesterday, where over 57 members of Parliament rose against the coordinator of the reconstruction plan, saying that this plan is actually doomed, yes, that it is bound to fail. What do you think about the reconstruction plan of the Northwest and Southwest region? Is it okay to actually push for a plan to reconstruct regions that are still in crisis?
Madam, what I would say is that what was happening yesterday in Parliament, I will resume it in one word. All those that were playing that game yesterday, I will call them brood of vipers. They are hypocrites. Because I want to quote one great man that has lived in mankind, Jesus Christ. Some people cannot recognize him as God, and that is why I'm calling him a great man. Now, one of the words that he used to the Pharisees, who were the people who knew the law at the time, that is the Jewish law, the Pharisees, he always called them brood of vipers, because they knew the truth, but they were hiding the truth. How can we be talking of reconstruction when the war is still going on? What are we reconstructing? I wonder the MP should tell us. So all what they were doing, the stage they were staging yesterday is just to blindfold Cameroonians. It's to blindfold Cameroonians because people have been crying foul that this war should end. How do you think that investors can come in to help the reconstruction plan when the war is still going on? I want to make mention here that during the monologue, I will call it the major national dialogue in court that they had in Yaoundé, they came with a resolution that they needed 3,500 billion to reconstruct the Northwest. I want to say that to start with that project, they said they will start with 10%, I think 10%, of which that 10% was 350 million. Now, Paul Tasson, for the past 2 years, he has made us to understand that the money that he has now is 10 billion. But what we are saying is that, what will the 10 billion do to reconstruct the Northwest and the Southwest? The government of Cameroon itself doesn't have money for this reconstruction. That it is the multilateral companies, industries that need to accompany Cameroon for the reconstruction. So now, if deaths are still going on every day. We have more than 3,000 deaths already. Presently, before entering this studio, we just heard that in a condo, GBH as a condo, a teacher has been killed and 3 students. You can imagine, people are still dying every day. The military are still dying.
I'm talking about the regions that are still in crisis. Many people that this plan is actually meant to improve their living conditions have fled. They have run away from their villages and are coming to other cities. Don't you think that some of the money or the government should focus more also on rehabilitating the lives of IDPs, on also improving the living conditions of internally displaced persons from those regions who are living in other parts of the country?
Madam, I'll make you to understand that we have already more than 100,000 internally displaced persons. We have more than 10,000 refugees, which as a result of this the Anglophone crisis. Now, how do you think that you can beg these people to go back to their villages when the war is still going on? We know very well that even the custodians of the tradition of this village, I'm talking of the chiefs, they live but in Douala and Yaoundé. They are not in their villages, and then you expect the local masses to go back to their villages. And you know very well that the local population is being persecuted both by the separatist fighters and the military. So I don't think that these people will have the courage to go back to their villages when this war is not ended.
I think when this reconstruction commission was created shortly after the major national dialogue, maybe the people who created the commission, the authorities, had in mind that by this time the crisis must have come to an end, maybe since 2019. By maybe 2020 or 2021, the crisis must have reduced. But like we heard just a couple of hours ago, GBH's Ekondo Titi was attacked. Now, I want to ask you, if do you think that the turn that the crisis is taking, who has to show that the blame? Is it the military or the separatist fighters, given the way that the crisis has eventually turned out to be?
Madam, if I understand your question very well, the problem is the government of Cameroon. The government of Cameroon has refused to solve the Anglophone crisis. It's a shame that for 5 years now, the parliamentarians don't have the courage to table the Anglophone crisis in parliament for the solutions to be met. But they want to jump and come to reconstruction when they haven't yet told the Cameroonians what is happening in Cameroon. It's a whole shame. I want to make mention that that Cameroonians should know that their mandate will soon end, and since their mandate now want to end, they want to play over the intelligence of Cameroonians. But I want to tell Cameroonians that to be vigilant, because we cannot be in a country where a war is going on, people are dying every day, and parliamentarians don't have the courage to say that this is the problem we're having in Cameroon, let the war end, and they go and tell us about reconstruction. So that is why I call them brood of vipers.
But I'm talking about finding solutions. I think the government, maybe the solutions have been failing, but I think the government has done its fair share in finding solutions, maybe long-lasting solutions to the Anglophone crisis. I'm talking about the major national dialogue. And there's equally the coalition that was formed recently to seek federalism, to look for federalism as a solution to end the crisis. What do you think? Is it the right time to talk about federalism? Is it coming a little too late or too early?
Yes, thank you very much for that question, Madam. I want to commend that you prepare your program very well, because you are really going in line with what is happening. Now, I want to say that it should be very clear that the government of Cameroon has refused to solve the problem. And the Popular Action Party, of which I'm one of the voices of the Popular Action Party, the Deputy National Communication Secretary of the Popular Action Party, it means that the president of the Popular Action Party, His Excellency Jangeni Stabe, just released a press statement of which he was congratulating the coalition of Cameroonians, federalists and activists. He was congratulating that project. And I want to say that if you look at the project, you realize that they are saying that we should go back to a two-state federation. We should go back to federalism. Now, I want to say that the Popular Action Party has always cried foul and has stood its ground that to solve the Anglophone crisis is for us to revisit the 1961 Constitution. It's for us to revisit the 1961 Constitution, Madam, because that is where the problem lies.
Don't you think many Cameroonians are actually against the issue of federalism? Because I think that, first of all, the separatists, the camp is kind of divided, because a majority of them as well, they don't want federation. They are pushing for total independence. So do you think that this plan for federalism or the plan to push for federalism is coming at the right time, will be eventually endorsed by all the separatists, all the various separatist groups?
Madam, it should be very clear, and Cameroonians should know that to solve this problem, it will be a federalism. Now, many political parties in Cameroon, you can cite many political parties, their ideology is about federalism. It is only one political party that we have in Cameroon that will not call the name to give them publicity, that have refused to understand that the problem of this country is for federalism. I want to even say that the government in place, the party which is in place, we have had big wigs in that party like Von V. Imukete, whom in the major in the Senate, he made mention that to solve this problem, we need to go back to a federalism. We have even had a big political figure in the CPDM party, who is by the late Sultan Ibrahim Bombonjoya, who in the major national dialogue, he also made mention that to solve the problems that we have in Cameroon, we need to go back to a federalism. But we don't know where it is blocking. It is blocking why it is blocking because some people have decided to hijack this country and want that the Cameroonians to continue be living in penury,
well,
in the sad situation that they are living today. We don't know the people that the problems are benefiting, but we know very well that there are some people who are fitting very fat from the system and of what is going on in the northwest and the southwest.
We can't say that for sure. Talking about major political parties, we also have standing by on Skype from the United States of America, Dr. Nick Santos. Good morning, Dr. Nick Santos.
Good morning, my media prime. Good morning. It's a pleasure having me today.
It's always a pleasure having you, Dr. Nick Santos. Now, what do you think about this coalition that was formed recently to push for a federation, to push for the creation of a federated states, push for 2 federated states in Cameroon as a lasting solution to end the Anglophone crisis?
Yeah, I will tell you that from the Peace Task Force initiative and from the Peace Patriots initiative, a body which is an organization headed in West Virginia, for which I'm speaking directly from the presidency of this association, with 256 members in the diaspora. Sorry, let me close my window because the noise is coming from the window. Let me tell you that we are observing how peace can return to the country. And I will tell you sincerely that if federalists met to decide about how peace should return to the country, these federalists are insignificant with regards to the general plight of the entire population here. The federalists who met might have been a handful of persons whose voices in the diaspora are insignificant. I will tell you vehemently that the only way for peace to return to this country called Cameroon is for the head of state, as I repeat, I will repeat as I said it before, that there are 3 persons in the diaspora, somewhere a Komisako, Cho Ayaba, and Christain. I would say 3, but also Seseko, the voice of Seseko matters, and the head of state, who can bring a lasting solution to this problem.
So
this problem is so complicated. This problem is so complicated.
Gwladys Bomotonguina has a question for you, Docteur.
Docteur Nick,
yes,
thank you for joining us. La question que je voudrais vous poser ce matin, à l'écoute de ce que vous êtes en train de dire, c'est on a l'impression, en vous écoutant, que le gouvernement camerounais a besoin de s'entendre avec les séparatistes pour apporter une solution dans ce pays. Est-ce que c'est véritablement de ça qu'il est question?
Yeah, the government of Cameroon must talk with the separatists.
Mais là, en ce temps, on fait déjà une propagande des séparatistes de cette manière-là. Parce qu'on a l'impression qu'ils ont plus de pouvoir que l'administration camerounaise. À vous écouter.
It is not an issue of the separatists having more power than the government of Cameroon.
Okay.
It is that when there's a problem in the house, we must go for where there's the solution. If Joe Biden of the United States has a problem with Americans, he will take the phone and call the Americans who are at the heart of the problem, and they will meet over a cup of coffee. It is not that somebody, it's not because of ego or because of pride. It is because of the general good of the entire population that the problem is resolved. But let me tell you, and let me bring this very important to Cameroonians. There are some members of government and some members of the CPDM who are fighting the head of state and who are sponsoring this war.
Who are those people?
I cannot mention here.
Okay.
There need to be a fact-finding, because let me tell you, these are the hindrances to peace.
Okay.
The hindrances to peace are the elements who are working against the New Deal package. The hindrances to peace are the ministers in Cameroon government who are financing this war.
So are you trying to say that both parties, they are internally divided among themselves, be it the government, be it the separatist fighters? So are you trying to tell us that both parties, they have to fix their internal organization?
If they are not divided, the prime minister cannot be going to the northwest to preach peace. Another minister is going to reinforce armor tankers.
Ok, ok, merci beaucoup. On a parlé de programme de reconstruction.
That's the answer. I'm a psychologist, and I want to give you a succinct response that the elements of disorder and the hindrances and obstacles to peace are within the government of la République du Cameroun.
Ok, merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup, Dr. Nick. Avant de nous quitter, on a les bailleurs de fonds qui refusent déjà de s'investir dans ce projet de reconstruction du nord-ouest et du sud-ouest. Alors, Dr. Nick, il est parti.
I think you can challenge your question to,
oui. Effectivement, les bailleurs de fonds.
Ejede.
Oui, madame, je disais au début que les bailleurs de fonds ne peuvent pas investir parce que la guerre est en train de continuer. Comment les bailleurs de fonds peuvent mettre l'argent là où il y a la guerre? Ils vont récupérer leur argent comment? C'est la question qu'on demande. C'est pour cela que nous disons que avant que nous allons à la reconstruction, il faudrait d'abord que on résout d'abord le problème. Que that is why we are in support, and we are saying, and we have been always saying that to solve this problem is federalism. Now, when we are even talking of reconstruction, what are we reconstructing? They are looking at only the physical aspect of reconstruction. You see that the people, the power that be, doesn't even think about Cameroonians. Because the first thing that they could even be telling us is the reconstruction of the mind. And reconstructing the mind, yes, minds need to settle because people are with anger, bunch of anger. You cannot tell me that the young lieutenant that died the other day in Bamenda, that the parents, you can imagine how much the parents invested for that guy to graduate in EMEA 2 years after he's been killed. Do you think that the parents are happy? Cameroonians are in a bunch of anger. So the first thing is for us to go back and look at reconstructing the mind. And reconstructing the mind is for us to accept the proposals that Cameroonians have been giving for us to solve this crisis. Looking at your guest that you talk of the CPDM,
yes,
you can see that he's babbling because he doesn't have concrete facts to tell Cameroonians, to convince Cameroonians. He doesn't have it. Now, all the measures that have been taken by the government are all cosmetic measures. The first of all started this crisis by telling us that bringing the Musonge Commission, let them give us a balance sheet of what the Musonge Commission has done. They told us about the major national dialogue. They told us which was a whole sham. Let them tell us what has been implemented in the special status. The special status, there is no roadmap of the special, no roadmap. There's no roadmap for education, no roadmap for health. The budget that was voted for the putting on in place of the regional council, the Noel was a functional budget. That is, they went and voted budget to eat and be fat with their big stomachs. That is what they went and did in the northern side. You know, madam, all what I say is tout ce que je dis ça m'engage.
Okay.
Bon, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that even when they say the DDR centers, we saw how the ex-separatist fighters have the type of living conditions that they are living in these DDR centers. How will these DDR centers attract the others that are in the bushes? Okay. So we are saying that in the middle of all this, all the measures that have been taken by the government are cosmetic measures and cannot adhere to the solving of the Anglophone crisis. Okay, to solve the Anglophone crisis, let me give you the proposal of the Popular Action Party.
Go ahead.
The first thing, the president of the National President of the Popular Action Party, in his press statement, reiterates that the first thing is for us to start thinking of having an Anglophone as a president in this country. That is the first thing that will appease the minds of Cameroonians at large. The second thing is for us to tell the parliamentarians who have now started bringing this playing their game in parliament, for them to start thinking to table the Anglophone crisis in parliament. Tabling the Anglophone crisis in parliament, they should call for a ceasefire. That the ceasefire doesn't mean that the military should leave the northwest and the south, but a ceasefire. That ceasefire will lead to negotiations, and in that negotiations, it will lead to a political national dialogue.
A ceasefire was called some time back, and it wasn't actually effective when the president called for a ceasefire in the two Anglophone regions, and it wasn't quite effective. So I think that both the government of Cameroon as well as the separatist fighters should put their heads together and look for a lasting solution to the ongoing crisis in the northwest and southwest region, before, of course, talking about reconstructing that part of the country. Thank you very much, dear televiewers. Thank you very much, Prince Epie, Ejede. Thank you very much, Dr. Nick Santos from the United States of America. It was Bomotonguina, Gwladys, and myself, Ngong. Bye-bye.